Welcome back to Pursuing the Muse. I'm Tom Compton, and I'm thrilled to have the eloquent Jon Nolan on for his second appearance on the podcast. We are diving deep into his new, fantastic album, Slow Cooker. Jon hails from Newmarket, New Hampshire, aka Shoetown. He is a seasoned musician, having co-fronted Say ZuZu with Cliff Murphy, as well as taking the reins with his own band, Good Company. Stay tuned as Jon reveals the raw, emotional story behind the track Someone's in the Driveway, inspired by an end-of-life request from an old acquaintance. You'll also learn how his wintertime music series sparked the album's title, Slow Cooker, which encourages slowing down and taking time, and learn about what the Omnichord actually is. So don't go anywhere.
Soft, slow dances we never hit. Love is the bird that sings, soaring through the sky, or whatever that means. Love is a bird that sings. I settle for a bird that still got wings.
All right, Tom Compton here again with Pursuing the Muse, and I am thrilled that we have Jon Nolan here. Jon has a new album out called Slow Cooker, and we are going to talk about this thing. It is so good. Hey, Jon, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, it is my thrill, my pleasure to have you on. I will say you are in a elite group, since this is your second time on the podcast.
Yeah.
You know how SNL does the 5-time jackets? Maybe I'll work up to like a 5-time jacket.
Am I the Tom Hanks of Pursuing the Muse?
Well, Terry Anderson has been on 3 times.
Ah, blessed. Terry.
But he may have heard about you coming on a second time because he was the last person I talked to.
That's funny. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to be back. It was a lot of fun the first time, and we talked. He certainly got a lot of Jon Nolan one-liners about songwriting, but now we get to talk about a record.
Right. Yeah, I mean, anyone who wants, because that was very Say ZuZu focused, a lot about your background. So I encourage anyone who hasn't listened to season 2, episode 1 to check that out. Jon is eloquent, and I'm sure he will be eloquent again this evening. No pressure.
Well, we'll see.
All right, so you've got this great new album out called Slow Cooker. Tell me, how long has that been in the works? When Say ZuZu wrapped up that last album, did you immediately jump into working on Slow Cooker?
Yes and no. After Say ZuZu got back together and started the process of making the record, and No Time to Lose, and then eventually it came out in 23. The spring of 23, I had fully caught the bug and wanted to be playing music more. And one of the things about Say ZuZu is we live in different states, so it's not as easy to get together and play as we would all like, certainly. And so I had this urge to keep doing it, and I grabbed my buddy Jeff Taylor, who co-produced the record we're going to talk about, who plays bass in ZuZu now, and our friend Rick Habib. And I wanted to start a band that was just for fun. I was jokingly calling it the Phaser Band. I had been listening to a lot of early 70s ZZ Top. Of course, you hear none of that in the new record. But I wanted to get a band together where I jokingly said, let's add fat, because everybody's about trimming the fat, right? I was like, I want to play solos that are too long, and just kind of just a little joke thing. And so me and one other member, a guy named John, decided we would form this for fun band, and we had like one rehearsal, and then John couldn't make it, and so we were in this barn, John Pisty of Say ZuZu's barn, and we were trying to do the Phaser Band thing, and I only had one song for that project, and so eventually they were like, well, do you have something? And I said, well, I do. I have this song, and I don't know if anybody wants to hear it. It's on one of the record, on the one on the record, Mad at Me. And I played it. And to me, it seemed a little, I don't know what I thought of it at that time, but I was a little judgy about it. And they were like, that's great. Let's play it again. And we ended up playing that for, and the next couple hours. And they were like, you have anything else? And so I sort of accidentally started this crew, Jon Nolan and Good Company. I didn't just start Jon Nolan. Obviously, it's been me my whole life, but the band Good Company, that the project that resulted in Slow Cooker kind of happened by accident. I busted out a couple new tunes, and it pivoted from this goofy phaser, Texas blues project into what it sounds like you've been enjoying since.
Yeah, a lot of good things have come out of happy accidents.
Yes, indeed.
So did this record involve, I'm following your social media a little bit, did this involve a bar or an old church that you were jamming in or recording in?
Yeah, in short order, we were too loud for Pisty's barn, his neighbor, actually. So we had to find a new place to play, to practice. And there's a long-standing, revered music club in my town, the Stone Church Music Club in Newmarket, New Hampshire. And it's a lovely place. It's a place where Say ZuZu cut their teeth. And lots of great acts have played. And being friends with the owner, she allowed me and my guys to practice upstairs. There's a big ballroom of sorts upstairs from the normal music venue portion. And we brought our stuff upstairs and sort of circled up in the middle of the room. And we started working on, just songs for a set to play live, and eventually the new songs.
Did you feel like an urgency to bring songs for the guys, like they were anticipating it?
What happened was, and the reason why the album's called Slow Cooker is because of a music series that I started. And that same friend, Jamie Preston, who at that time owned the Stone Church, I told her, we had, when we were all in the pandemic, I said to myself, man, if we ever get a chance to be in the same room with each other again, I will not take it for granted. And I mentioned to her that I wanted to start a music series that was kind of a cobbled together sort of Frankenstein monster of a bunch of things that I really enjoyed from my local music scene when I was younger. Like one part Irish session, one part, the movie Get Back. They're all sitting in a circle on chairs. Everybody saw the Beatles documentary, and, they were just sitting there. They were playing rock music, but they were sitting in a circle and playing at a volume where they could, talk to each other, and, so Slow Cooker is the name of the Slow Cooker Sessions. It's a wintertime music series that I run the first Sunday of the month in the wintertime, and that's at the Stone Church. So I didn't feel a sense of urgency to get the record going, but I booked the first season of the Slow Cooker Sessions. So I kind of cast me and my friends into the fire. I told them, I said, hey, that we won't be able to rehearse anything well enough for anybody to feel comfortable. But we're going to have some fun, and we're going to invite, people to come and join us. And the point was to sit in the circle and to everybody pick a cover, everybody pick an original, and let's stand them up and let's just, push off the dock before we know exactly where we're going. So it's kind of in the conditions of that really lovely community-based music series that the songs for the new record start to bubble up. And so we had plenty to chew on, Tom. So I didn't feel any sense of urgency to feed the beast, the band, with new songs. We had my old songs to work up, and we were already playing a lot all of a sudden. It just kind of went from 0 to 60.
Nice. Did you wind up paring back songs to get to the ones that were on the record?
You mean, were there like more songs than the ones that ended up on the record?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that happened, so yes, there are songs that aren't on the record that existed that were in consideration for a minute. And I think, a lot of your listeners don't know me. I'll just tell you guys, I got gray in my beard. I've been doing this for a minute. I'm from the 1900s. And I'm old, in other words. And when I was in the barn with those guys before the Slow Cooker session started, before Jon Nolan Good Company was making the Slow Cooker record, this thing happened in the barn, which is that suddenly I was coming home from rehearsals without anything other than just this glow of enjoyment from having enjoyed playing music with my friends. Because we weren't making a record yet. We weren't doing anything. We were just playing. And it felt so good. It felt so good to have something that felt joyful and meaningful without an immediate need to do something with it, like book a gig or make a record. It felt so good that I was like, guys, like we did it, like nobody move, almost like you're watching a baseball game and you don't want anybody to like mess up the streak. I was like, guys, nobody move, like it can be done. I didn't realize that I could feel that way about music, having played it for so long, right? Hence the old guy reference, you know? And so that became paramount. And it became a thing we talked about real early on. We were like, okay, well, if we can feel this way, playing these new songs, at that point, just, 2 or 3 in the barn, why can't we just keep doing that and then move what we're doing into a space where people are? So jealously guarding the joy of what we're doing was fundamental to this project getting off the ground. And as the songs came up, did we like them? Do we feel good about them? Was an important principle to check in with. Jeff Taylor and I have played music a long time. He's the bass player on the record and the co-producer, as I mentioned. And so he was a really good sounding board as we move forward. And, we get a couple songs together, 3, 4. Then there are a couple like little, bits of clay, as I like to say, that we would throw in the wheel and we'd, spin them and see what came of it for a second. And when motives other than the ones I talked about kind of came into the room as we were creating songs, he and I, one of the other of us would suss it out and be like, nah, that feels like some, at one point we had, 3, 4 songs recorded, and because we did the record over really a year and change, probably 3 or 4 different sessions, most of them recorded in that same space upstairs at the Stone Church with borrowed gear. I can tell you about that too. But we were like, oh man, are there too many, slow songs on it or something? And so I would feel this pressure to write a fast song, and that's not really a great reason to write a song, Mm-hmm. So not that you shouldn't know that you have, quote, too many slow songs on a record, but it was really a reminder to slow down and take our time with it. One of the sort of many wordplay, slow cooker, like take your time, guys. So yeah, they came about in those sessions. If we weren't feeling what we were doing in the room, because we recorded it largely live off the floor, as they say, drums and the amps set up in the middle of the room and mic'd in a way that, it wasn't, there's some bleed there, but not so much that it locked me in. So if I needed to recut an electric guitar, or we needed to edit or recut some bass, we could do that. Drums were really the only thing we had to have. And sometimes I was singing live off the floor. None of the live recordings were kept of my vocals, but then I took it home and did, some overdubs requests, acoustic or percussion or whatever. Have I wandered off the path?
No. So even the solos, were just those live in the studio with the band? Like there's a couple extended outro solos that are really nice.
Yeah, a lot of them are. The first track in particular was Jeff and I felt like we did a number of takes of the song "Someone's in the Driveway," and it's a song, just to tell a little bit of story. Sidebar on the solos, Tom. It took me a long time to realize how many songs about my town and about where I'm from that I write. I didn't even notice necessarily until really the last few years, how many Say ZuZu songs reference Newmarket, where I'm from, or people in Newmarket, or places in the area. And back in the Say ZuZu days, I worked at this little country store in town. That was my in-between tour job, because when you're a non-famous touring indie rocker, you can't work a straight job and say, hey, I'm going to be gone for all of April. They won't hold your spot for you. So you got to paint houses or figure it out. And I worked at this awesome little country store called Morelli's Fruit and Real Estate. Mr. Morelli used to go get fresh fruit with a horse-drawn carriage in the early part of the 20th century, and then the middle of the century, he got some apartments, so he slapped "and real estate" on it, so it became Morelli's.
It's fantastic,
right? And Louise, my old boss, took mercy on me. She's like, "Sure, you can work from 10 to 4. When you're here." It was perfect. I showed up at the crack of 10 and left at 4. I made pennies, but it was a great way to get a couple bucks. And one of the characters that would come in and out of that store was this guy named Brian, and he worked for the town next door. And for a couple of years when I was working there, we did this dance where he would come in and he would just bust my chops as soon as the door opened. It didn't matter if I had one person or 20 people in line waiting to get, pay for their paper or a cup of coffee or scratchies or whatever. He was just giving me a hard time. And I didn't know if he hated me or if he was just a salty old Yankee who was trying to see what I was made of and kind of liked me. And I didn't know. And even after I left that job for 20 years, he was just a guy in town and we would nod hello. And then he really honored me with the thing I wrote the song about. 20 years later, my wife's in the living room and I'm in the kitchen, and she goes, "Someone's in the driveway," in a particular tone. And I stepped into the living room, and to my surprise, I look out in the driveway is this guy, Brian. And I had no idea that Brian knew where I lived. So I figured I should probably step out front and meet whatever was coming to my door before it got there. And what unfolded was pretty much what I said in the song, which is that he really honored me and humbled me with this beautiful end of life task request. He told me that he had found out he had cancer and only X amount of months to live. And he, as I say in the song, knew that I do music, and he wanted to sell the records from his basement to give his wife one less thing to do. And I came in pretty, shook and moved by that. And so when we, pivoting back to the talking about the record, I knew I was going to have to try and write a song. And when this one tumbled out of me, and it kind of did, it was one of those ones that I was gifted. It kind of tumbled out in one session. I knew that, Jeff and I talked about the heart of that song, and we wanted to take our time with that one when we cut it and really marinate in the, it's a heavy song. And so we wanted to capture that in the solo. And so we wanted the band to be reacting to how I was feeling when I was doing that take. And I think we did it, we certainly felt that way.
Oh, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
That song in particular does such a great job of painting emotions efficiently and beautifully. It's just, I'm glad you fleshed out the story, because it just makes it that much more rewarding. Because, coming into the shop, I was like, oh, did Jon work at a record store?
Right.
But fruit and real estate, that was not one of my guesses.
Yeah, if I gave you 1,000 guesses, you never would have guessed. Is it Morelli's Fruit and Real Estate? No, I'm so glad. Yeah, that was one where it was important, that we tried to capture. I mean, they're all important, obviously, but as the record started to take shape, there's another song on my own where it became clear that my guitar tone, like the take was fine, but the guitar tone was too muscular, and I wanted to sort of thin it out and make it more dreamy. So that one was overdubbed. But I probably at least half of the solos are, I think, cut off the floor.
That's great. I mean, that's an achievement, because most solos are just, we'll circle back,
Yeah, right.
So that's awesome, because you get the feel, the feel of the band, and it's got a whole nother energy. So that's great.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, if you happen to have any, recording artists or young artists that are listening to this, there's no one way to do a record. I just want to put that out there. Like, this record, it became clear to us, that this was a really good way to try and capture these songs and where we were at. It was a creative choice, but it's certainly not, the only way to make a record to like cut it live or something. And there's a cost to cutting it live, which is if you mess up, you're doing it again. You can do some things with digital recording, obviously, to fix a otherwise perfect take, but yeah.
And I imagine with the cover of the record, you got the Morelli sign.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Got a little Easter egg there.
That's right. I'm glad you noticed it. There are plenty of Easter eggs on that album cover. And that is actually in the bar. That's in the Stone Church. That's in the space where we recorded the record.
Wow.
So that's the upstairs ballroom. There's a little bar. And it is, it's a little fun fact about Newmarket, Tom. It's where Timberland started. Timberland boots. And back in the day, it was called Newmarket. One of Newmarket's nicknames was Shoetown. Hence the name of my publishing company, Shoetown Music. And so that space upstairs bears the scars on the side of the stone walls on the inside of the glue fire that happened in the early 20th century. They were gluing heels to some shoes.
That's sweet.
And so lots
can
of.
Can I refer to you as the mayor of Shoetown?
Oh, please. That would be incredible.
If I ever get to introduce you from a stage.
Yeah, I mean, I will slide you $10 every time you call me that in public, especially in a microphone. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Sweet. And you started talking about On My Own, and I'm going to say this. Over the weekend, I was driving. I had an early morning errand to do, and I had the record on, and that opening riff to On My Own kicks in, and I'm just like, I'm not going to swear now, but I did an F yeah, because the guitar, the riff and the guitar is just so great on that song. Definitely one of my favorites. So,
oh man,
this isn't lyrically is also a great story because I'm really interested in this woman. It's like, it's like seems like she has to reinvent herself, and there's a lot of emotion involved.
Yes. I think it's on this side of the recording, it felt like that was the case in all these songs. It was a lot of emotion. Say more about your impressions on My Own. Before I ruin anything, I want to hear more about where that one took you.
I mean, I even could almost picture this woman, like, she's coming from a place of success, and now her world has been turned upside down, and it's almost like I don't know if you're familiar with, like, there's the Buddhist term, the bardo, which is like the in-between time between life and death. There's this little window that's like, just like this. To me, this is like she's having a little bardo of like, I've been here, something else is coming, but this is the moment of like reinvention.
Yeah, it's I'm not familiar with the term, but I get it. There's a first off, of course, after you have done enjoying this particular episode of the podcast, please, stop by Jon Nolan's Slow Cooker on wherever it is you listen to music, and you can obviously backfill these conversations with the tunes. But this is one where just to give you some more context too, as we were recording songs showed up, songs became known to the band, and became clear like some of these were gonna be on the record. And Mad at Me, and there's a song Echoes of Borderline that to us were sort of the central heart of the record. Like emotionally, they don't have to be anyone else's favorite. They captured something for us and for me that were central to the record. And so everything at a certain point, some songs that didn't end up on it went away because they kind of didn't work with or align with or support those two songs, and the other songs we felt like were tucked in with them. Someone's in the Driveway being one of those. And On My Own, lyrically, subject matter wise, seemed to us like it fit. But again, that early guitar tone, it was in the way of what we wanted to capture. And so I recut that, and then it was sort of saved as being included with the record. And it's a few things. You want me to talk about On My Own a little bit and like how it came to be, or what would you like to know about On My Own?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's it's not a one of the things I love to do when I don't sit down to do it, but sometimes I start writing a song and I realize, okay, I've given some strong direction on what's happening here, but not so much that you can't fill in the details in your mind. I've sort of like a choose your own adventure mental movie or something where you kind of have a sense of what's happening, but maybe, you don't know what's happening. So my hope is that some of these songs kind of become cinematic, and you kind of live someone else's story in them. And On My Own is definitely one of them. There are a few things going on. One of them was my kids were going off to college, and, it's in my mind, I feel like the thing that I relate to in that song is this hopeful expectation in your youth of what's to come and the inevitable realization that things aren't maybe what you hoped or what you thought they would be, but there's still this drive to keep going and to sort of reclaim a newly formed version of what you want. And, I think the world's gonna world, Tom. And, it's not about my kids, but it's about some of the feelings I had, what I remembered feeling in my 20s and 30s, and some other people who I have, had a chance to talk with on the regular. Some of the things that they were sharing with me found their way into this song in a nonlinear way. Yeah, it just because, life will rough you up a little bit doesn't mean you can't keep going and keep trying to push for something that's beautiful.
Yeah, and the word cinematic, I totally, you totally succeeded with that, because this record it's kind of different than a lot of albums because it's so cohesive, and this is a record I definitely want to put on and not turn off till it's finished.
Oh, man.
Because it's like, it's building this world, and when you're saying, the linchpins that you had, Echoes and Borderline and Mad at Me, and then thinking about the other songs in relationship and supporting that, I mean, you totally nailed that. Because this
now
record,
you're just being especially nice, Tom. You're making my night here. I'm so glad. Really, I think Jeff. I'll high five Jeff here. He doesn't know what I'm high fiving, but I'm waving my hand in the air. This was something that we, maybe sometimes we get a little too serious and we're stroking the chin and thinking about songs and stuff, but it does feel good. That it seems to us that a lot of people are having that experience pretty early on, and I'm glad you're one of them.
Yeah,
great.
I mean, and I'm not a visual person at all, but you're talking about being cinematic, and it's like I'm picturing this woman, on her own, and it's just weird. And like, the next song being Sea Glass is very cinematic.
Oh man, yes.
And the video helped because that definitely helped paint a picture. But we got to talk about Sea Glass.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to ask, what is an Omnichord?
Oh,
because you play it on that song according to the credits. So.
Yeah, I do. Yep. An Omnichord is, I think it's from the 80s. It's like an electronic auto.
Do you mean a keytar?
I mean, I suppose it's in the keytar family, Tom, but it's not a direct relative. Daniel Lanois famously, I think, is one of the people to champion an Omnichord, and it's an electric auto harp. That's what it is. It's got, buttons and a little pad that you sort of,
Okay, I'm Googling it as you speak.
Yeah, slide your finger back and forth. And what's the song? There's a famous Gorillaz song. I got sunshine in a bag. That one? That's okay. That's like he hits a pre-programmed beat and you can hit another button and it will start playing a chord. And he just literally turned that on and started singing. And so it is out there, mostly in the indie world and sort of like college rock world. But I love it. It's on Say ZuZu's Waking Up as well.
Wow. It's almost like an evolution of an accordion from the pictures I'm seeing with the with these buttons and stuff.
It is something. It's cool. It's a funky instrument, that's for sure. It's fun. A lot of possibilities with it.
So I mean, actually, at this point, I'm just kind of curious. How do you play this? I mean, is it like each button's a note?
Yeah, each button is a chord. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's a chord. Each button's a whole chord.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, hence the chord in the title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's how I was playing it. And then that little there's like a strip, and it it does the swipey thing. It goes ring instead of like strumming the Omnichord. You sort of do that. You run your finger along that. You strum the instrument. Let me see if I can get this to work here. We'll find out. But so that's it's a cool instrument for sure. And I think some of your listeners will certainly know about it. But they're for sale. They're out there. You can get them. They're pretty cool. Sea Glass, it was the record started to come together, and Mid-Coast Maine is gorgeous. If you haven't been, go. It's just really beautiful and peaceful in the summertime. And my family had a chance to go and stay on the island where we filmed the video, a little island, Orr's Island. And my cousin has a place there, and he let us hang out there. And we were, doing what my family does every year. I was, strolling along the beach while my wife and kids were looking for sea glass. And of course, just because, my brain plus ADHD plus caffeine plus being a songwriter equals I'm seeing things metaphorically all the time. And I was like, sea glass, it reminds me of the fact that, reminds me of a lot of things about myself and what I do to pay the bills in between rock stardom, working in mental health and stuff like that. But, sea glass is something that was one shape, and then it was broken and roughed up and tossed around and then spat back out on the beach. And then it's beautiful. Sea glass is beautiful. But it couldn't be what it is without having gone through the transformation that it went through. And I was like, hey, me, that's a pretty good metaphor. Let's play with that, And
you ain't kidding.
Yeah. So that's where I did. And again, it was another one where the song started to take shape the less I start to whittle away from some of the lines and just keep it to a simpler form. Again, not to overuse the word cinematic, but in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm trying to, not have the idea overstay its welcome. And I want to plug in some imagery here that people can make use of, but without being so detailed that they can't, again, add in the details that their heart and mind want to add. And it was just a vocal and acoustic, along with an old Casio keyboard program beat, and I added some Echo Boy for your recording nerd listeners, and copious amounts of reverb, and then of course Omnichord. So it's just the Casio beat, the Omnichord, my vocal and my acoustic guitar, and then some harmonies, and I did a shaker on it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the last ones to come together.
It builds a nice soundscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was dreamy.
So, and then a lot of the songs on this record, it's like they're seekers, and they're trying to make a connection, and sometimes regretting it, sometimes mostly regretting it, I think. Yeah. But it's so relatable to, going through life and, wondering what's going on, what did I miss? And, and I think, the next song in the record, being Frozen Man, is really, really interesting. It's almost like a guy at a bar, and it's like if only I had made a connection, there's something to this guy, and it's just wonderful, wonderful stuff.
No, I'm so glad. That's another one of those songs that I wrote, and I asked Rick, the drummer. I was like, "Here's how it goes, guys," and we played it a few times, and the band got the form of it, and I was like, "What do you think?" Rick and most of the guys being from where I'm from for as long as I've been here. I've known Rick almost 30 years, and he's like, "Huh, it reminds me of so and so," and I was like, "Well, that's because it's about them," and so he nailed it, and I was like, okay. And it's another song about somebody that we knew. And it's just this lovely guy, and it's pretty straightforward. I mean, he was loved by all and known by none, was sort of.
Yeah, that's such a great line.
It was, thank you. And he sat at the corner of the bar, and if you came to the Stone Church, which is where he, held court, you would know him. You wouldn't necessarily know his name, but if you were, chummy with the staff or brave enough to be like, hey, because he wasn't mean, but he was an interesting character, and just to speak frankly, I think we encounter a lot of people who are, for one way or another, outside the norm, right? Something's going on. The way they dress, the way they keep themselves or something just kind of makes you stop for a minute and go like, is this everything cool here?
Mm-hmm.
And if you encounter those people in your daily life, in your neighborhood, on your block or whatever, sometimes it makes you, cross the street, and sometimes you're like, how you doing? And then sometimes you regret saying how you're doing, and other times you're like, oh, there's a person in there. And that's what this gentleman was, like, wow, he's a really good guy. And this particular guy would shock you with his knowledge of music and his appreciation of music. And he lived in this, rickety old apartment building we called the Tilton Hilton because it looks like a Tim Burton movie set. Like the whole thing is tilted to the right. Like if you look at the building, you're like, how are they allow that to stand? It's not quite the Tower of Pisa, but he had this apartment up on the top of it, and he had this, Macintosh stereo system, and he was a forklift driver, and like it was like this guy doesn't make sense, like what's going on here? And he was this beautiful, lonely guy who just, as I said, I never kind of figured it all out. He died before I got to know him. When I was younger, I was lucky enough to kind of be in his orbit and chat him up, and he was just a lovely dude. And when I got older and I got better at having confidence in myself and engaging with people of all, kinds, I'm infinitely more confident in my curiosity about people now. And I would have liked to have gotten to know him a little bit better. And there's a picture on the wall in the church of him and at the local coffee shop, and there's only X amount of us that know who that is, and we're all gone. Everybody's gonna be like, who's this? Nobody's gonna know. Kind of a lonely story, but those people are everywhere.
Yeah, like eccentric, but if you make the effort to engage, it can be rewarding.
Totally rewarding.
Yeah.
Totally rewarding. Yep.
And it's the record up to this point. It's almost, it has a certain heaviness, not like gloomy, but like these are some serious people.
Everybody who's made it this far in the podcast is like, man, this record sounds like a bummer. I mean, but is it?
Yeah.
I mean, is it, Tom?
It's not a bummer at all, because these are intriguing characters, and they're not like downers. they're all
Mhm.
really interesting people, but
Mhm.
they're not. This is not simple. This is not a simple pop song.
Right.
These are
Mhm.
like characters with layers. You got to
Mhm.
peel away like an onion.
Mhm.
And it's really rewarding because this also helps the album. It benefits from repeat listening because it has so much depth to it. And I've listened to this many times now because it's just rewarding every time. So
Well, man, again, thank you. I mean, you are walking into right into the kind of thing that our hope would be, that people would find this to be the case. Just put a couple things out there for you and for your listeners that hopefully don't come off as too self-congratulatory or whatever. We made a record. We like albums, us in the band, and we made an album that is, sequenced and has a side A and side B in our mind, even on the CD. And, we made a choice, Jeff and I, that when we were talking about Echoes of Borderline and Mad at Me, that we were just going to send it, that we were going to, just load it up with the truth. And we were going to make sure we were feeling it in the room. If we were feeling something in the room, we were like, we think if we're feeling something in the room, that people are going to feel something when they're in the room listening to this.
right.
And
Yes.
Mad at Me is a song. I think I went on the last episode I was here and talked about music as a self-acceptance discipline.
Mm-mm.
And which is funny, because I wrote Mad at Me and I was like, nobody wants to hear this crap, and that song is about, getting into my 30s or something and being like, why is my voice raised? I'm not mad. Like, what's going on? Oh, I'm sad. And I really didn't have a tolerance for feeling sad. The house I grew up in, nobody really was very comfortable with hanging around with sad very long. And so if you don't spend time with any emotion, then it's going to come out sideways. And so that's about just learning to accept how you're feeling. And so if you take that and you bring it into Borderline, which is Echoes of Borderline, is definitely an ambiguous, song, but full, I think, of rich emotion in me, certainly in the band when we were playing it. And then you just sort of go out from there. All these songs did not shy away from deep feeling. And our hope was that the people, the repeated listening idea again too, like this is real life in this record. This is stuff. This is real stuff. This happened to me. This happened to my neighbors. I love me a straight up pop song as much as the next guy. I swear to God, I do. I have written some songs that are just like, let's have fun. And I love those songs. And in this record, it's not inaccessible. It's got some hooks and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But, I love Darkness on the Edge of Town. I wouldn't say this is Darkness on the Edge of Town, but Darkness on the Edge of Town doesn't pull any punches. There are lots of records that aren't maudlin, but are rich with the complexity of real life.
Right. And there are a lot of pop songs, that records out there. This is refreshing because it's more. And you're talking about some of the hooks. I mean, there are what I was getting at the end of Frozen Man is like the next two tracks, Hidden Glances and A Bird That Sings, kind of lift the mood because those songs rock, and they're not as in depth about one person,
Right.
but so I think it creates, you're creating like a sine wave almost, where it's On My Own is comes in rocking, then you kind of get introspective, and then Hidden Glances and A Bird That Sings is just wonderful. And that's like, I would say that's would be fair to call it a pop song in a way.
I would say so. And pop is not a dirty word when you're talking to me. I mean, I think, that, On My Own is certainly, again, strong pop hooks,
Oh, God, yeah, the riff is awesome.
If you're not listening to the lyrics, you're just bopping your head, and it's not even that On My Own is all that heavy either. It's just there's a real story in it, and but Hidden Glances is meant to, that song is about movement and moving forward musically. Like that was the thing we talk about, right? Like just it's moving forward and it's romantic and it's, again, dreamy and hopefully cinematic. And there are some details, but not so many that you can't find your own way in it. And Bird That Sings is sort of, that's John's Devil May Care, sort of, if you don't laugh, you'll cry kind of thing. It's one, that's meant to be kind of like, well, boys, F it, like let's have some fun. I think emotionally, and I think it's reflected in the music, the music and the lyric don't necessarily, I don't know. Again, if you're just listening to the music, you wouldn't think that it was about getting your butt kicked, but Bird That Sings is about getting your butt kicked.
I love the line, I'll trade you lower highs if you heighten the lows. You're not asking for the world, but come on, meet me somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. It's bargaining with the universe. Come on, man. Like sort of like I'm so glad you're making my night. Again, you've done it 4 times already. Back to the whole thing about multiple listens and it getting better. Man, I hope so. Right. It was a thing that we reflected on. We were like, we want there to be something waiting for people. We didn't want to just write a couple catchy tunes and pull people back into some 1996 CD experience where you get 1 or 2 good songs and then the rest are just kind of filler. We wanted there to be something waiting for people. And we resigned ourselves to the fact that the record wouldn't be for everybody, but for the people that it was for, that they were going to love it. And that with time, slow cooking, so to speak, yuck, like with some time, giving it a second. So let me say this too, to any listeners who give it a shot, give it a second, like sit with it for a minute. And if you have the opportunity, even better, if you are in proximity to one of our shows, come to our shows. One of the things that I love as a music fan is when there's a band that I like, an artist that I like, and I get a new record and I dig it, but then I see them and I totally get it now. I'm like, I get it now. And then I bring that in the room with them experience back to the record. Man, that's the stuff.
Right.
That's the stuff.
Takes it to another level.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about, early Wilco. I remember, being there and being like, what's this? Like if I'm honest, I was like, what's on his voice? It wasn't an Uncle Tupelo record or something. I was like, what the heck? And then we saw them, in Boston, and I couldn't get it out of my CD player for the next 2 months. Like I get it now. And so Slow Cooker is that. It's a record that we wanted to be waiting for people. And for the people that stuck around, that they would be rewarded at another layer of, hopefully something they could relate to or find themselves in. But that would be deepened and strengthened if they have the opportunity to see us and then go bring their experience with the record to us, and then have us fill it up and inform it with something that we're doing in the room, and then bring it back to their listening. Because again, the same sort of ideas that we started with of like, are we digging this? That's what we're doing when we're playing. And it is, to me, man, it's made music freaking great for me. It is, I just, because what am I going to do, Tom? Make it? Like, what am I going to do? Like,
You've already made it with this, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm saying it, jokingly, like, what am I doing here? If I'm not digging, who am I trying to impress? Do I dig this? Do I hang my hat on this? Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. Right. Do I dig it when I play it? I do. Do we dig it, guys? Yes, we do. We rehearse on Tuesday nights, and one of our rallying cries to each other before we play, we're like, it's just Tuesday night, guys. It's just Tuesday night. We don't have to do anything fancier than when we're together and we turn the editor off and we just play. We're just playing these songs with one another, enjoying one another's company, and just digging what we're doing. And when we are centered on that idea around these songs, which is how these songs were born, around that same idea. And it was literally, sometimes we recorded them on Tuesday nights, Monday and Tuesday nights. This is what we're doing. We're not trying to make, a record. We're trying to have an experience, and we are going to record the experience that we're doing. We literally made a record of what we do, in a literal sense. We're like, here's what we do. Here's the photo album. Here's the sonic photo album of this band.
Yeah. Yeah, it works. It's great stuff. Before moving on from A Bird That Sings, let me just say, on talking about coming back multiple times and getting new things, and my most recent go-through of the record, I just love the bass on A Bird That Sings when it gets to the chorus. So it lifts the chorus to another level. It's just fantastic.
Preach it, Tom.
Yeah.
It's classic GT right there. Snaps the GT. Yeah, he's got he just, that one was made for his pocket. I'm so glad you said that. I feel the same way.
Great. That's a great word to capture it. In the pocket. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
He is. Yeah, it's I'm playing a riff and he's playing an approximation of the riff, and they kind of don't line up, but they are, and it wasn't intentional, but it's some of the kind of guitar interplay, and this happens with Zach Tremblay on the record, and now Pat Fitzgibbons, who plays guitar with me. But yeah, it's some interplay, and his bass is like, the thing that we're all vibing on, that pushes it forward.
Yeah,
grabbing that one,
brings life to it. So, yeah, and then another, like, sonically, when Dust, Sweat, and Blood hits the chorus, that's another moment that, like, the song goes up to another level. It just, it's really masterful what you've been able to pull off with this.
Thank you, man.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's another, that was a song about, again, so real life stuff in here. I got laid off after working at a company for 5 years, and that was a kick in the teeth. And I think it's not an experience unique to me, obviously, especially these days. I remember sending an early version of that to my pal Cliff and Say ZuZu. Just like, hey, what's your read on this? And he was like, I think a lot of people will relate to it. And so that piece is certainly a thing. And then, New Hampshire was one of the hardest hit places in the opioid epidemic. And as a person who works in addiction treatment, or has for a number of years, that's a rough go. Recovery's possible. I don't want to say that. I do want to say that. And, that we've talked about the subject matter of these songs, and a lot of it's heavy, but it's not without hope.
Yeah.
And that's, Dust and Bird That Sings and the other kind of heavy songs, the subject matter wise. Dust, Sweat, and Blood is about, like, you stay undefeated if you keep on hanging around, just get up. We got to get up. We all got to keep moving forward. We got to be for each other. The Slow Cooker Sessions music series that I started is about that, keeping it simple. Like, hey, let's come be in the room together, let's be for each other. Let's do the real stuff. Let's play some tunes. We just had the first episode, as we call it, of season 4 of the Slow Cooker Sessions, and Cliff Murphy from Say ZuZu was our featured guest. We feature a friend in the middle, and we try and keep it real there too. But yeah, Dust is about this little rallying cry song I wrote for myself after another period of tough parts of real life. And I was like, well, let's go, baby. Let's be scrappy. That's my favorite reframe. got to be scrappy. We're scrappy folk. That's
Yeah.
something I sow into my kids' brains. Like, we're scrappy. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Dust ourselves off. We move forward, and we can do it.
Yeah. Don't surrender.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, man. So I will say, you're mentioning this song relating to being fired from a job. I was laid off from a job, a COVID layoff, and it was the same day John Prine died. And I was like, man, this is a tough day.
Man.
And then, I mean, I'm a hobbyist songwriter myself. So it's like I had to turn that day
Of course.
into a song. And
that was my first experience with it. And it sucks. It hurts.
yeah.
It hurts a lot to be laid off. And so shout out to any of your listeners who have suffered that or who are fearing that right now. Like, man, I'm with you. And you are too, Tom, right? It's not great.
A lot of us have been there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. I mean, in songs like this, it's like you recognize that and you feel you're not alone. So
That's right.
it's cool.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we touched on we talked about Mad at Me, I guess, a little bit. And yeah, that's another one where there's a live solo cut off the floor. So was what's Borderline? Oh, one of the solos in Borderline was there's a double tracked solo in there. Yeah, I think so.
Are you playing like a Gibson's semi-hollow on this, or like a 355 almost, or?
I'm playing my early 70s Les Paul throughout. Okay. I have a new Silvertone that I don't even know the model. But man, let's say this about new cheap guitars. Wow, they're better than the new cheap guitars that I grew up with. But yeah, most of the record is my Les Paul. I do have a like on some of the solos, there's a treble boost that I'm using from Black Volt Amplification, a little boutique shop in California. I somehow went down the rabbit hole and found their amps, and I was like, ooh, those look amazing. And those were like $3,000. I'm like, well, looks like I'll buy one of their pedals. And, and then it was really cool. So it
got you close enough, huh?
Yeah, made its way onto live shows and certainly this record.
I got very lucky. Like my first guitar, I want to say 1985, a Fender Strat, but it was like there was like 2 years they made them in Japan and they were really cheap. But over time, it turned out that they were really high quality and like they appreciated really well. So I got very lucky getting a cheap guitar of high quality.
Oh man, we love that, right?
Yeah.
I'll say this too. I have a Harmony amp. Now there are lots of different kinds of Harmony amps. So until I acquire another one, I will totally gatekeep and not tell everybody what it is.
Right.
But there was I toured with this one amp with ZuZu for years. And then when I had my studio, I sold it because I didn't need a big amp anymore. And I bought this perfect piece of crap for $200. And it's a great amp. So I don't know what, I played lots of, old Harmony amps and stuff. And there's some secret sauce in this one. So
Interesting.
Yeah. It's, I don't know if I've actually never played any others. It could just be, I have a freak amp or something. Who knows?
It's your sound now.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's all over Slow Cooker. I played that in a Silverface Deluxe reissue. And, there's lots of good stuff out there to play with.
And then the record, I think it sums it up with the quintessential line from the whole piece. Life is a slow cooker. It'll soften you up. I mean, that kind of sums up the whole record right there.
Yeah.
Man.
Yep. That's a song I wrote to play at the end of the Slow Cooker sessions. So all the Slow Cooker gang, all the people that joined me for that session, it's my band plus a few other friends. We sing that at the end every time. So And it's, sort of like, it's goodbye for now, not goodbye, right? So, and yep, life's a slow cooker. It'll soften you up. But let's be together. Let's sing some songs. My mother's family was musical, and my uncle played guitar. He taught me to play guitar. My mom's one of 7. My grandfather was one of 11. And so I grew up with stories about my great-grandmother's generation growing up in the Depression and how we didn't have a pot to piss in and how we would comfort ourselves with song in our family. That's what we would do. We're like, well, we're all going to bed hungry. We might as well sing, and they would sing in the kitchen and do that kind of thing. And I'm the beneficiary of that, some different version of that legacy. And that's certainly encapsulated in Goodbye for Now, the last song on the record, and really the whole record.
Yeah. It puts a nice button on things.
Yeah. Shout out to my dog, Luna, whose collar you can hear jingling.
Oh my God. Is there a rooster going in the background?
There is. Yeah. It was my neighbor's rooster. Yeah. It was just little, I put my phone on right next to me, and I was out with Luna and I was like, I tried sort of a formal recording, and I was like, oh, this needs to be a little bit more, something a little bit more humble. And so yeah, I just got out there and I was like, he was crowing, and I'm like, oh man, don't stop crowing, and I sang the song, and then he crowed on cue, and Luna came panting by, and I was like, nice. I hope that's on the recording, and you can hear it.
Oh yeah, it almost brings like a circle, like the wheel is going back around. We're saying goodbye, and here's the rooster with the new dawn. Like, here comes another day, and we start all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, just to make a bit of anybody, if you listen to this and there's something about this conversation that intrigues you and you go and listen to that record, give it a second. And our hope is, it's an invitation to do all the things it sounds like. Slow down, slow cook it, just make a cup of coffee and put it on and, just marinate in it and see how you feel. Play some cribbage with somebody while you listen.
Great stories. And I think they're very, it's cool with the details you filled in, but where there are holes, there's like enough room to find where I relate to it, and like where any listener can like put themselves into the story, because it's not like this address, this person, it's really, really well done.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. It's fun to talk about, and it's really gratifying to you put together, you know how it goes. You're a songwriter too, and you make podcasts and you put together what you hope is something useful or interesting for people, and you just kind of send it out there, and you're lucky enough sometimes you get some kind of response of like, hey, that was really fun and really interesting, and it's thank you for your kind words. And I'm just, we just went on tour, and it's something I'm getting back at, humble touring here, real humble touring, but the label's in Georgia and I'm in New Hampshire, and so I've developed this little corridor back down there and back, and some of the shows we've played are like little places. I mean, they're all little places. But it only just takes, for me, it just takes, we played this gig with Cliff in Baltimore, and, it was a humble crowd. But one of the people that came was somebody who was coming to this place, the restaurant next door, and heard sound check. And was like, whoa, what's that? And so he and his wife and niece came because they heard sound check. And then after the show, he's like, what's going on here? Like, who are you? This is really great. And I was like, oh, wow, thank you. And and they bought a record, and he's like, man, come play with my band. So we just did. And we went to his neighborhood and played with his band in his neighborhood. And man, that felt good.
That's awesome.
So we're trying to get out there and just find the people that like what we're doing.
Yeah.
In a real humble, like, let's see what we can do kind of way. So it always feels good, and I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah. Any possibility Chicago could fall into the mix?
100%. I want to get out there this spring. We won't be hitting the road before March. And so, yeah, somewhere between March and June, I would love to come out to Chicago and in the Midwest in general, at least once. So we've got the corridor that goes down the Southeast squared away, and it's kind of known. And so I'm going to tour as much as, the pocketbook will allow,
Oh, right. Oh my God. It's so difficult because I can't tell you of the last several shows I've seen, it's artists doing solo acoustic or like one acoustic. It's all like stripped down because people can't afford to bring a band on the road anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's an economic reality. It's always been a tough road to hoe, right? And I think, the way that, I've been saying is, some people hike the Appalachian Trail or they golf or they buy a bass boat and they spend all their money on tackle, right? And, or something. And I like to go from state to state and play music with my friends. So, I would love to make enough money to buy another, a boutique pedal, and level up and all that stuff. But playing humble rooms and breaking even, that sounds delightful to me. I aspire to more. But that day in Baltimore when we played and this one guy was like knocked out and was like, come back, that felt great. Like, that's amazing. So
yeah, that's rewarding. Right?
So we want to get out to the Midwest. That's, short version is love to. And, I'm trying ping my pals at the Hideout and see if that's possible.
That'd be a good spot for you. Yeah. And maybe offline, I'll shoot you a couple ideas because
please,
there's some cool stuff going on.
Absolutely, yeah. Let me show them the way. Anybody that listens to this, we want to play, so invite us. Don't be shy. Yeah, come and play.
We need to build the road from Chicago to New Hampshire. What's happening in Cleveland? What's happening in Indianapolis?
I mean, New York is long too. One of my daughters is in University of Rochester, so there's I got a cousin halfway between there, and all the rest of it. So it can be done.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. So Jon, this feels like a natural point to wind things down. Let's talk about where people can find out more about you and pick up Slow Cooker. You got a Bandcamp going with this?
I have all the places where music is purchased. I am blessed to be there, per the grace of my awesome record label, Strolling Bones Records. And yeah, Strolling Bones, not Rolling Bones, Strolling Bones. And so StrollingBonesRecords.com has my stuff. I'll tell you what, my favorite, somebody asked me the other day, hey, what's the best way to buy your music? What's best for you? And my answer is wherever you're actually going to buy it. That's my answer. But if you're on the streamies and times are tough, no harm, no foul. You can find me on Apple and Spotify and YouTube and all those things. Yes, Bandcamp. You can go to jonnolan.net. I'm a Jonathan, so JONNOLAN.net, to see where I'm playing or what's news, or to sign up for my newsletter. I send out one newsletter a month. So if you want to keep up with my goings on and find out when I'm coming to Chicago or back down south again, go ahead and drop a line there. But my favorite place for people to buy, if I'm honest, is a local record store, local independent record store. We just played one recently, did a little local in-store, and I had this, I'm thick, Tom. Sometimes it takes me a second, buddy. But we're playing there, and I'm like, whoa, we're playing the place where records are sold. And the people who come here are people that like to buy records. And it only took me like my whole life. I was like, damn, like this is the way. And there are, there's community there. Like, we didn't talk a lot about community, and I know we're at the end, but let me just say,
I got all day if you want.
Well, I'll just say, Slow Cooker is about its community is also really important to the record, to the series, and it is fundamental to what we're doing on the road and in our region when we're playing. And, the record went out to press, and it's going out to radio and stuff. And I just got an updated sort of take on the state of all things, I guess, really. And I'm like, wow, there are a lot, the press, as we know, is just, it's different than it was 20 years ago. There are just fewer people out there doing those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But it went to radio, and I was like, whoa, there are actually people. Radio is still connected to a geographic location where actual human beings are. And there's something to that we all love music. There's still a lot of love for music. And so back to the whole, like, go to a record store thing. I was like, man, there are real people. Like, we play that, and there were like three youngins. They were all like 19, 20, 21. These people work in the in-store.
Mm-hmm.
And I was tickled pink, they loved it. I was like, damn, let's go, and one of the guys bought it afterwards, and put on my shirt. I'm like, wow, this is awesome,
Right.
But there are people there. I'm like, damn, like I should go where the people are.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're playing shows, what we're trying to do is we're trying to play places where, everybody calls the third place, there's work, there's home, and there's that third place you go. And sometimes you don't want a band in the corner of the place you go to hang out with your friend and get a cup of coffee or a beer. And that's fine. We respect that. But the places where community and music are friends, like we'd rather go there than the club your dad's heard of or something. You know what I mean? We want to bring this thing that we're doing on purpose to a place where people go on purpose and see each other and enjoy one another's company. And so record stores are sort of in alignment with that underlying philosophy, and it keeps the ecosystem alive. And for the 5 people that don't know, Spotify and all those, they don't pay very well at all. I'd rather you listen to my music than not listen to it on those places. But if you want to help any band or any artist, man, buying a t-shirt or a CD or a record is worth thousands, literally thousands and thousands of so-called spins on those places. So even if you don't have a record player, buy it and give it to your buddy who likes vinyl, Yeah. That was a longer answer than you expected when you were like, where can people find your stuff? But give me a chance to get in my soapbox again about what we're up to.
I mean, I love what you're saying about community, and I'm jonesing for that myself, because it's like maybe there's a couple of Facebook groups where people talk about, Americana roots rock, and man, it's like I feel that, that void. And
well, let me take a minute and leave some silence so you can edit this part out if you don't want to hear this next ramble. Pause. And that I don't think we're alone in that, Tom. I think we all know that we're all somehow more connected by the internet, but somehow it's not satiating.
Mm-hmm.
We know this. Nobody's like, really? Everybody knows this.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really know what to do. And so this thing that is infused into this record and the sort of mission and this little project that goes out with me, and all the guys, to your point about like bringing a band on the road, ain't nobody getting rich in the Jon Nolan band, I'll tell you that much, but everybody is really enjoying having adventures. And so as a result, there's kind of this little village of people that, there's sort of the official good company of Rick and Jeff and Pat. But I brought out, I don't think I've had the same lineup on any tour. Just in the last 6 months, I've got on 4 of them, and they all had, at least one of the OG guys, maybe 2, but not everybody because of the money and blah, blah, blah. But everybody understands what we're doing, and we all want it. And that's why they're willing to join in. It's an adventure, and we're on the hunt for community and connection and to connect with other musicians. And it's awesome. But, I think, the, margins of bars and musicians has always been thin. And I think right now it's particularly thin. And I think that's leading to, I heard this guy say once, in relation to people, that he was saying there's an orchard in every apple. right? The seeds, and you can rot to it or you can cut to it. And I'm team cut to it. Like once I see something, like let's rip the Band-Aid off, let's get it done. And one of the things I see popping up right now is non-traditional venues, house concerts are more plentiful, and most importantly, the people who go to those things seem to be enjoying themselves differently and more deeply. And my theory on this is why I gave you that space to cut this out if you don't want it, is that again, not rocket surgery here, I mean, not a brilliant insight necessarily, but there's so many asks made of us in today's world. Every ping of your phone, every notification, even just, even the good stuff is still an ask, right? You and your friend sending memes back and forth about the World Series or whatever it is you're doing. It's just like ping, 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 and it's all kind of pulling your attention. And I think people are tired. And now you add in thin margins for venues and bars and bands. And I'm out here spamming the internet, trying to get people to come to my show. I said, I'm always kind of like I want to tell people that I'm doing this thing, but I also don't want to spam the internet. I don't want to be that guy. And so I think, for whatever reason, the non-traditional venue, the traditional venues, it makes, I have this suspicion that it makes people feel like they're going to the place that makes them tired sometimes, or they're going to see the act. It's a subconscious thing. It's just a theory, whereas these non-traditional places, those associations are so keenly, associated or felt. And it feels more like, okay, nice, cool. I'm here to do this thing. It feels like a friend's house. And sometimes it is a friend's house. One of my favorite places to play right now is my friend turned his 2-car garage into the coolest sports pub you've ever seen. It's just, he's sort of taught his neighbors that he has concerts there. And so he had like Robbie Fulks and he had Dan Zanes there. And, we play there. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. It's great. But all 40 people that are in his garage packed in there eating the catered tacos or whatever he gets, right, are there on purpose, and they love it, and it feels great. And they'll chat and they'll drink some beers and whatever, but they're also tuned in,
right?
So
that's the stuff we got to hook up, man. Get that community to thrive.
It is. So if you're one of those people, you got a 2-car garage, you turn into a bar, and you want Jon Nolan and good company to come play, we'll come do that.
I have so many thoughts along those lines.
Yeah.
But yes.
The third episode, I'm coming for you, Terry. You're just going to have to book me again so I can hear him.
So, oh man, what great stuff. Hey, just curious, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the slow cooker sessions concept. Is it anything like, Levon Helm in the Midnight Ramble kind of?
Yeah, I've been jokingly calling it the Static Thunder Review, because it is. It's like equal parts Rolling Thunder Review, Midnight Ramble, Irish Session, and Get Back. Yeah, that's what it is. So like it's upstairs in the Stone Church and ballroom, and it's a big room. And could probably, if it was like a standing room show, it could fit, the fire marshal wouldn't let you fit 300 people in there, but it easily could fit 300 people. And it's outfitted with couches and funky mismatched chairs and all sorts of stuff. And there's a rug in the middle, and there's a disco ball way at the top of the tin ceiling. And there's also mood lighting in a bar that's like on the cover of the record. You see me leaning on it on the side, and we sit in a circle. And because when Cliff and James and I from ZuZu were youngins, we'd go out and see a lot of folk sessions. They just happened to be a lot of them. They would be a session in the corner, and people sitting in a circle. And when we played in our living room, we'd sit in a circle. And so I like that, it sort of helps. And even when I'm playing a quote unquote proper show, sometimes I turn towards the band because I turn towards the music, because it feels like we are having a conversation. And so I just was like, let's do this because it's fun. We discovered that joy in Pisty's barn. And I was like, let's sit in a circle. And if we were doing this in my living room, we wouldn't care if we were making flubs. It would just be fun as hell. And let's just do that there and get them to sell soup and bread. And because it was evocative of this local folk venue, the Loaf and Ladle, that had soup and bread. And I was like, let's put these sort of comfortable associations that I have together and let's sit in a circle with drums. So it's not a folk session. We're playing rock and roll music and country and folk. So we're pulling from the American music pantry of sounds, you know? Yeah, so that's what we do. So we sit down, it's 4 to 7 on Sundays, first Sunday of the month, and November to March, and we sit down at 4 and we don't get up till 7. Like we just sit down and we play. And it's an open book test, as I like to say. You know, everybody has like charts at the ready if they need them. And when musicians come in, suddenly I'm waving you over and I'm handing you my guitar, and now you're playing in the band for a couple songs, even if you just came to get a beer. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, that sounds very cool.
You
got some good stuff going on, John. Really.
Yeah. Well, I'm having some fun, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So again, Jon Nolan and Good Company. The album is Slow Cooker. Can't recommend it more highly. So definitely go pick that up. So John, thank you so much for coming on. This is really fun.
Thank you, man. I hope to see you out on the road here this spring.
Yes. If you get within a stone's throw of Chicago, I am there.
My man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, John.
Right. Sure enough.
All right. We're doing the epilogue. Not sure what it means.
You've created a monster, Tom. Here I am rambling. You're like, I was going to say something genius, but now that you've recorded it, and
the pressure's on.
Yeah, I got to say something different. But, I think being from the Midwest, I think, everybody's familiar with the bones of, American industry, right? Like I live in the bones of the Industrial Revolution, right? The giant textile mills, the pre-World War II stuff. And in places like Detroit or South Bend, on the horizon are the factories that like churned and right in places in Pennsylvania, old steel and stuff. And when that industry went away, these structures that were once vibrant and like full of people, doing things, went dormant. And I think that the music industry is not dissimilar, except it wasn't centralized. If we could see if the music industry on all sides of it, not just musicians, but record labels and media outlets and zines and all the things, and even music lovers, we would see, if it was all centralized, you would see something similar to those things. What instead we have is it's scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
In every town, every city are places where we all still go to see music, but the margins are thinner. And now, like where I am, a lot of places, they have the shows earlier, which is great, I think, by a lot of us. But that's only in part because they want to flip it and they want to have another show at night because they need to make a buck. So back in the day when there were fewer choices and we didn't have that little rectangular piece of glass in our hand asking for our attention all the time, we would say, hey, Tom, what are you doing? I don't know. Let's go to, the Hideout later and see who's playing, or let's go to the press room in Portsmouth where I am, right? All right. And then like we show up and maybe you invited a couple other friends and I'd be like, oh, hey, Fred, good to see you. And maybe Fred likes music, but not as much as you and I, but he would pay the cover to come with because we were having a time together.
Yeah.
But now because there's so many asks, we were just talking offline here about it being the age of the tribute band, and no shame to that. Like, that's awesome. I have friends that are doing that and doing great, and that's beautiful. But I just think in the age of asks, that a lot of people who would have, taken a risk just to be with their people, to go see something unique, totally understandably are like, you know what, I don't need to pay $20 to go see something I don't know and I might not like. I understand that. I just think that's on us as creatives and thinkers in the arts ecosystem to think about, okay, well, let's respect that. And where do we bring this thing that we all, know and love to places where the barrier to entry is easier, if not economically, at least spiritually and mentally. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And people are receiving ask after ask after ask, and it's hard to
So many asks.
stand out.
It is. Yeah.
Because you might just be one more ask that'll be a brief dopamine hit that fades away to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, a lot of the ways that all of us, all sides of music, interact with this thing, right? Making music, concerts, records, etc. We're following old habits. Back to my sort of, I don't know if that landed with you, this sort of clumsy metaphor of like, a factory that's not thrumming with activity anymore. Yeah. We're just kind of we're punching into work, but we're the only one on the assembly line, right? Instead of there being like 300 of us, we're like, oh man, it's going to be exhausted, And now the fans, like, the super fans, there's one or two guys in particular who, I don't know if they clone themselves, but they seem to see every Americana show in New England somehow. I'm thinking of you, Dana, if you're listening to this, you are. And it's incredible. But I wonder, back in the day, that used to be a place where maybe they would experience community. They'd see a lot more people like them at shows than they do now. So there's like this feeling of a great desire on the part of a lot of us to find a new way where we can experience that community more readily, but
we're in a Bardo moment between what music was and what it's going to become.
Yeah. We're going to crack the code, Tom. Episode 3, we're going to do it.
All right. I'm holding you to that.
And scene. Epilogue done.
All right.